Okay, now let us deal with the first scene of Macbeth. First of all, take your book and open the first scene of Macbeth. It's a very short scene. It is called the Act 1, Scene 1 of Macbeth. You know, the fundamental thing that I have to discuss here at the very beginning of the scene, it is the first scenes are always very important. Why? You know that it is the introductory scene, because you have to catch the ample references of the major themes of a text. You see, there is a comment by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. You have probably heard of Coleridge. Coleridge is the romantic poet and obviously critic. In Samuel Taylor Coleridge's form, he's thinking about Shakespeare's plays. He says that Shakespeare's opening scenes strike the keynote of the play. You know what is keynote? Keynote, this very term, is actually referring to the major chord. Say for example, while we sing, there is a major chord. It's a scale on which the whole song is being structured, and it has to be sung. So that's why Coleridge is saying that the Shakespeare's opening scenes strike the keynote of the play, because the opening scenes are always thinking about it is actually carrying all the basic vibrations of the text, right? And in the opening scene, that's why Shakespeare is trying to, it is not only in case of Macbeth alone, rather also you will find that the same thing is being in operation in the other plays. Likewise in the tragedies and obviously in comedies, but tragedies in detail. So Macbeth's opening scene, it deals with the characters. There are think about the first performance while it was performed in the Globe Theatre. People know, you see, that people are completely unaware of the story. Probably while you were going through the text, you have the story matters of Macbeth. You know the story of Macbeth. Probably you have heard about Macbeth and Macbeth's interpretations and so and so. But ultimately think about the first spectators. While they are entering the auditorium, they're entering the theatre. They're just sitting, and they know that the name of the play is Macbeth. And at the very opening of the text, or very opening of the curtain, you will find that there are three enormous creatures who are just standing on the front stage. They are the witches. Who are the witches? Actually, probably you have to go through the particular essay on Middleton's witch, because while thinking of Macbeth's time, it's not the Elizabethan period, rather it is called the Jacobean period, while King James I was on stage, or was on throne. So James the First, he actually indulged in a secret form of black magic, okay? And somehow the reference to the sorcery, the reference to the witches, the reference to the supernatural, the treatment, the use, was altogether present in the contemporary England. So while Shakespeare is creating the witches to be present on stage, he is probably taking all his ideas from Middleton. He is taking from all his ideas from the established orientations of presentation of supernatural and the practice, that is obviously an ill practice, but ultimately it was dealing with some secret endeavor. Why Shakespeare referring to the witches? Why he is not directly referring to any kind of ghosts here in this particular play? Just because Shakespeare is always thinking about that they have to be taken as a middle station. You see, that if you think of a ghost, then you will consider of a ghost something completely different from the human being altogether. If you think of a human being, then there are some certain limitations, you see. But if you think of a witch who is coming in between, that means they are not to be considered as a true human being, they are not to be considered as a direct ghost, rather they are coming in between. And this in-between condition is the primary focus of Shakespeare here, okay? And that's why he is referring to the concept of twilight, okay? Just think about them. It's twilight. And what does it mean? Twilight comes just in between the day and the night, okay? Think about the appearance of the witches. They are female. They are looking like female, but they have birds. So what does it mean? They are neither male nor female. They are neither human being nor ghosts. They appear at a time which is neither day nor night. So always he is projecting these characters in between. And they're appearing on stage and they are performing some rites and rituals. What is the place? It says a desert place. It is completely deserted. It has to be, because it cannot be a part of your society. Because if you place these characters in your society directly, then ultimately there are some obligational tools, you see. You cannot just restrict the witches to your own concepts. Okay, so that's why the obligations, the rules and regulations, the formulations that have been ascribed to the witches, Shakespeare wanted to leave their witches, leave these characters from the basic concepts of spiritual, basic concepts of supernatural, basic concepts of obligatory principles that the Elizabethan England was very much accustomed in. So it is a deserted place or desert place which is completely free from any particular area, that is social area, and obviously the situation has to be appropriate because it must match the witches and their present condition. So it was thunder and lightning and entered 3 witches. The number is very important, you see, that the term 3 and the term 13, okay, 3, 9, 13, these are considered to be the ominous numbers. These are always being thought as ominous numbers. And Shakespeare deliberately using them. They are 3. There are other differences, obviously. Thrice to thine and thrice to mine and thrice again to make of 9. Okay, so these are some things that Shakespeare is deliberately using there. The witches are 3 in number. The lions are almost 13 in number. That is the opening scene. Almost 13. Not completely 13, but almost 13. These are all symbolically representing to some ominous settings, some eerie, uncanny orientations, you see. So that's why it says thunder and lightning entered 3 witches. And what is the first witch says? There is no name, you see. There is no need actually of using any identity. The first witch says, when shall we 3 meet again? In thunder, lightning, or in rain. So you see that Shakespearean plays, whenever it is Macbeth or any other plays, say Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, Antony, Cleopatra, others, you see that all these plays were written in blank verse. What is blank verse? Blank verse is a typical metrical arrangement that is called iambic pentameter unrhymed. So Shakespeare is trying to project the witches to be different from human beings, and that's why whenever the witches came, Shakespeare deliberately changed the metrical arrangement. The witches are speaking in rhymed trochaic tetrameter. That's why he says, say for example, they're coming and they say, when shall we 3 meet again, in thunder, lightning, or in rain? So in a melodious voice, you see, it's a thrilling sounds, and the characters, their outlook is something ominous, you see, the situations are not proper, so the people are taken aback, the spectators who are sitting along with them, and they are saying, what is happening there on stage? Who are these characters? What are they speaking of? How the accents are completely different from the other characters. So it is the fundamental focus. Shakespeare wanted his audience to be shocked, and he successfully did that. He says, the first witch says, when shall we 3 meet again? So it's the first appearance when they are conversing with each other, and then speaking of, but when shall we 3 meet again? আবার কবে দেখা হবে, in thunder, lightning, or in rain. That means they are obviously referring to the situation where they will arrive within thunder, within lightning, within rain. So these are the adverse situations to the human beings which are considered by the witches to be profitable for them. Not profitable, but it is something very much helpful to them. So these are some references that Shakespeare deliberately used here that can attach them to the situation, to the macroscopic orientations. So the microscope and macroscopic is being incorporated. So when shall we three meet again? In thunder, lightning, or in rain? The second which says, when the hurly-burly is done, when the battle is lost and won. Hurly-burly, this is a typical Shakespearean word. Hurly-burly, this term actually refers to any kind of, say, any kind of commotion, any kind of disturbance, any kind of, the hodgepodge situation, when the hurly-burly is done, when the battle is lost and won. That is very important. The battle is lost and won. What does it implicate? You will find probably that the battle is literally signifying the battle that is going on between Scotland and Norway. Okay? And battle is lost and won. আমরাও বলি যে হার জিত হয় একসাথে না, মানে কেউ হারে কেউ জেতে. So fundamentally when it says the battle is lost and won, it indicates that one particular country will lose and another will win. True, there is no problem in it. But fundamentally, does it signify the literal battle that is going on or something else? I say that equivocation is one of the most important things in Macbeth. Equivocation means something that you are speaking something but you are referring to something else. তুমি যা বলছো আর বোঝাচ্ছ পুরো অন্য জিনিস, মানে দর্থক হয়ে যাচ্ছে আর কি। মানে অ্যাপারেন্টলি তুমি মনে হচ্ছে যে তুমি যেটা এখানে বলা হচ্ছে সেটাই হচ্ছে, কিন্তু আলটিমেটলি ইউ উইল ফাইন্ড দ্যাট সামথিং এলস হ্যাজ বিন ইন ইউর মাইন্ড। তুমি বলছো এক কিছু, বোঝাচ্ছ অন্য কিছু, কারণ তোমার ইন্টেনশনটাই ডিফারেন্ট। হ্যাঁ, সেটাই হচ্ছে ওই যেটা আমি বলছিলাম যে ইকুইভোকেশন ইজ আ থিম। যখন আমি তোমাদের ওই পোর্টার সিন বলবো, ওখানে হেনরি গার্নেটের একটা রেফারেন্স আছে ইকুইভোকেটর হিসেবে। So somehow here it says that when the hurly-burly is done, when the battle is lost in one. So the battle, Shakespeare is not so easy, you see. The Shakespeare, he is not literally referring to the battle. He is not actually referring to the battle that is going on. Rather, he is referring to something else. This is the fundamental battle that is going on within the mind of Macbeth. One. And this is another kind of a battle that is going on between the good and the bad. Who are the bad? The bad is represented by the witches. Who is good? Macbeth, obviously, and Banquo. So somehow, when the battle is lost and won, so the good portion of Macbeth will lose its battle, and the bad portion, it comes to the forefront. Right? And if you think in terms of Macbeth's psyche, then you will find that the good self of Macbeth is losing his battle to the wicked self of Macbeth. The criminal will win over the good Macbeth or the hero Macbeth. So that's why the battle is referring to three ideas. One, I'm repeating, one, it is referring to the battle that is going on between Norway and Scotland. Two, it is the battle between Macbeth versus the witches. The witches will win and Macbeth will lose. Third, it is referring to Macbeth's own psyche, where one particular self, that is the evil self, is winning the battle against the good self of Macbeth. Right? So these are three things that have been incorporated or interpreted in this particular form. So when shall we three meet again? In thunder, lightning, or in rain? When the hurly-burly is done, when the battle is lost and won. The third which says, that will be ere means before, the set of sun. So the sun will not set. It's just on the verge of setting. It is actually referring to twilight again. But again, another thing that is important here, that does it simply referring to the sunset or something else? You see, in a typical Elizabethan world, in a typical English society where monarchy is at the forefront, monarchy is obviously leading them. Do you not find that the monarchy and the king is always being referred as sun, because just like sun, it is just nourishing people in general. So when it says that will be ere the set of sun, it is actually referring to the setting of sun is referring to the killing of Duncan. So it is the implication. I have already mentioned that the opening scenes strike the keynote of the play. So you will find all the indications have been made at the very opening lines. That's why Shakespeare, you see. That's why he's a genius. So ultimately, it might be possible that in a literal meaning you will find something, and in the inner meaning you will something different. Obviously, that's why it needs a great study. So when the hurly-burly is done, when the battle is lost and won, so it is another battle that will be ere the set of sun. Fundamentally, for the first thing, it is referring to the situation, the time, and next it is referring to the setting of the sun is referring to what? The fundamental reference to Duncan's murder. It is before Duncan's murder. The sun will be set. And obviously it is referring to something extra. Okay, so this is the symbolic representation. Then it says, where the place upon this heath, there to meet with Macbeth.